Tour guides, what's the stupidest thing a tourist did? My uncle was a tour guide in Iceland some time ago. He once guided a group of Americans around the country and stopped at a glacier in the middle of nowhere. He explained to the group that this glacier had been here for thousands of years and that it doesn't melt. The group then went back to the bus to carry on, but my uncle notices that a woman was carrying a big piece of the glacier towards the bus. So he stops her and says, "I'm sorry, you can't bring that onto the bus, it will melt." The woman quickly responded, "But you said it doesn't melt." My uncle stood there for a while, dumbfounded by the amount of stupidity that was in that answer, before finally saying, "Okay, but you'll have to put it in your backpack and keep it in there for the whole journey." The woman readily agreed and started to empty her backpack to make space for the big block of ice. Needless to say, this didn't end well for the woman, as the ice obviously melted in her bag. When I was in Paris, I witnessed two older American women aggressively trying to force a store clerk to accept US dollar bills. She was like, "Just go to the kiosk down the street, they will change these bills for you, and I'll be happy to sell you what you want." They were like, "This is good American money." Visitor. You're not from around here, are you? Me? Actually, I am, born and raised. Visitor. Well, I've been coming to the South for 25 years, and you just don't seem like you're from here. Me? Well, my parents don't have strong accents either. Visitor. I just think I would like you better if you had a Southern accent. Sorry that playing up the stereotypes is not in our visitor services manual. I'm here to talk about history, not recreate your Southern fantasy. When I was in France touring World War I and World War II memorials, the actual tour guide didn't speak English, so I was commissioned to be the translator for all the British and American tourists. I was assistant to the regional tour guide, so I hope my story counts. We were at Verdun, and it was a pretty free-for-all tour where the kids could somewhat play alongside the crater's edges to really drive home the eeriness of a war zone overtaken by normalcy. Anyway, middle-aged American bimbo says, "Wow, all of the craters and hills here must have been really convenient for the fighting. They're lucky they picked such a location. Lady, are you for real?" When my family went to Ireland, my younger brother walked up to the bartender in a small pub and ordered an Irish car bomb. The bartender explained that he had just ordered the Irish equivalent to a 9/11 tower collapse in America. He said it was okay because he had bartended on a cruise ship, so he knew what my brother meant. He also said never to order that drink in Ireland again. I'm not a tour guide, but I am an asshole. I worked at a magical theme park and had a woman come up to ask me a question. I stood in front of the pirate ride, dressed as a pirate, and she asked, "Where is the pirate ride?" I looked up at the big sign, then back at her, then again at the sign, then to her. She became frustrated I wasn't answering her, so she asked me again louder, "Where is the pirate ride?" I pointed to the train to my left, told her to take the train to the 4th exit and get off, and it will be on your right. The train has 4 total exits, and as I got on my break, I was walking away just in time to see her get off the train and angrily flip me off. Then get on the pirate ride. Not a guide, but I recently returned from a hiking trip to Yosemite. I was astonished by the amount of people who were so unprepared for the strenuous hikes. I witnessed people wearing flip-flops and ladies carrying sparkly high-priced handbags on hikes. Good grief, surely they had some idea where they were going. It's not like they were dropped off by a friend who yelled surprise. In Wyoming, it is common to buy bear spray, highly concentrated pepper spray, when heading into Yellowstone. One tourist believed it was bear repellent, lined up his family, and sprayed all of them. Chemical burns for everyone. As a raft guide, we regularly got asked whether we would be passing the same spot / going through the same rapid later in the journey. We would reply, "Why, yes, this is actually one of the only circular rivers in the world." Question, how deep is the river? Hey, about chest high on a duck. Wasn't really stupid, but annoying. I'm French-Canadian, and I was giving some information to 4 French tourists, and suddenly I noticed that this woman had her camera pointed at me. I'm embarrassed, but I still keep giving the information, and at the end they all start laughing. At this point, my face is red, and I'm feeling super uncomfortable. I asked the woman if she was filming me, and she says, "Yes, your accent is too funny, I have to show that to my friends in France." Basically, I felt like some kind of freak show, and that woman didn't even ask me before starting to film. She just put the camera in front of my face, which was really disrespectful. Let me tell you that I'm very self-conscious, and I felt a bit shitty after that. I was on one of those big bus tours of San Francisco in the evening. Last ride for the night. The tour guide probably mentioned 5 times before leaving that it would be freezing up top and that no one could go up or down the stairs during the hour tour because it was dangerous. This couple was at the top with their infant, wearing nothing but a onesie with a thin bed sheet over the carrier. The tour guide suggested multiple times that they stayed downstairs since it would be freezing. Well, it felt something like 30 degrees or less, and the poor baby was crying the entire time before we had to pull over after 30 to 40 minutes, so the couple could take their popsicle baby inside the bus to thaw out. Best parents of the year, choosing a better view over their baby's well-being. Not a tour guide, but a park ranger in Banff told me a story about a couple of European tourists who asked him where they could see some bears. The ranger mentions a few spots where bears are known to be and cautions them to be careful. The next year, he saw the same couple, and they thanked him and showed him some pictures they had taken. In one of them, there was a picture of the wife holding a black bear cub and smiling. The ranger kind of lost it on them. Not a tour guide, but was at a tourist beach thing, and there were probably 40 Chinese people just taking photos of these motorcycles in a line. One man went so far as to sit on one of the bikes and took pictures of his kind climbing on it. One of the bikes got knocked over, and the tourist did not even care. That row of bike belonged to patch members of the Hells Angels. The bikers did nothing except scream at them to leave or some bad things were going to happen. I felt scared at what they were going to do. Edit. Angles/angels are all the same to a mathematician. I saw a Czech man literally toss a Chinese family off a memorial this past weekend. It was excellent as the bloke just segued up, stopped, stepped off, and then hurls this family off the memorial. When I was in Yellowstone National Park, a tourist or Turon-Def, a mix between a tourist and a moron, was trying to take a picture with some buffalo. He had his child, probably 3 years old, with him, and he was walking towards the buffalo. His wife was holding the camera, ready to take the picture. I knew that he was trying to put his kid onto the buffalo or pose with it or something else immensely idiotic. Fortunately, a park ranger stopped him before anything serious happened. Apparently, this is fairly common in Yellowstone, and most people are maimed or killed. Wild animals are wild. Stay away. I worked at the visitor center in Gettysburg for a while. Here are some of my favorites, some of them personally overheard, some of them passed down via word of mouth. Do they take the monuments in at night, or just leave them on the battlefield? Why aren't there any bullet holes in the monuments? Oh, I didn't have any ancestors back then. Yellowstone National Park tourists. Where do they put the animals in winter? At the beginning of a river raft float, so the boat ends back here, right? Yes, ma'am. This is a circular river. Finally, a question so stupid, you wonder how they came up with it. What time of the year do the deer turn into elk? I'm not a tour guide, but I work in NYC and commute daily. Tourists, when you fan your entire family out across a walkway gawking at the awe and wonder, in reality a disgusting subway tunnel, thus making it so that people can't pass you, we will immediately want to shank you. Don't block the way in NYC. Ever. That goes for every place in the world. Sure, enjoy the spectacle of our great cities. In single file so we can pass your slow ass. I was in France on a school trip. We were headed from Nice to Paris. There was an aqueduct built by the Romans along the route, so we stopped. There was a small crepe stand, so we get crepes. These two girls, who were not affiliated with my school, get up and start demanding hamburgers. You know hamburgers? I finally said to them that they knew what a hamburger was, but they made crepes and crepes only. Sister works as at a restaurant in Bar Harbor, Maine, a popular tourist town and cruise ship stop. Some gems. Are those islands in the bay real? Who turns all the boats in the water to face the same way? Where are all the military ships? This person thought Pearl Harbor occurred there because apparently there is only one harbor in the U.S. Was lobster diving Palm Beach off a boat. Had a group of fellas and a smoking hot babe with them. They were in wet suits. She had nice two-piece bikini. When you lobster, you carry a net bag with a long string to carry your catch. They had hooks/snaps to drag around. She just tied it to her bottom bikini. They did well, putting their catch in the bags, letting them fall behind. When I was surfacing, a great barracuda went for a snack. A tasty lobster in a bag, with the bottom bikini attached. Needless to say, the girl went up the ladder first to get on the dive boat. She didn't even flinch. I was the dive master/guide at that time. Some things you just can't tell people. At first I assumed you were a lobster, then all 13 years of public school came rushing back to me, and I realized I might be dumber than I first thought. Not a your guide, but once on one in the UK, the guide was asking where everyone was from and making conversation. Ooh, Paris, I've been there, etc. And these two guys responded. Guys, Slovenia. Guide. Oh, right. Absolute silence. The two guys got offended and started complaining. Guys, you British don't even know where Slovenia is. You know nothing about us. Awkward silence, me trying to be helpful. Well, the capital city is Ljubljana. Ljubljana, pretty sure I pronounced it wrong. Stares and awkward silence guide. Well, anyway, we were all in a lift that took forever, which made it even more tedious. That's funny. Once I was chatting with some nurses having an industrial action in Manchester, and when they asked me where I was from, I said Slovenia, expecting them to know nothing about it. Oh, I went to Bled for my honeymoon chirp one, but I think this one is on the guide. When you ask a question like that, you need to have an answer prepared for the places you've never heard of, or don't ask such a question. My family went on a trip to Spain, and on our tour there was a guy who kept asking why everybody was speaking Mexican. We and the tour guide kept telling him that it's Spanish, not Mexican, but he kept doing it. He even called a bunch of Spaniards Mexican to their face. Apparently, he thought all Hispanic people were Mexican. On that tour, my parents got a call from my neighbor. Turns out he had set himself on fire earlier that week. I hope I never have to go on a tour with someone who ruins the experience like that again. Not a tourist, but I overheard this conversation between two American tourists on a Eurostar train waiting to depart Paris for London. What time does the train depart? I'm not sure. The ticket only has military, 24-hour time on it. I wish they would use normal time. It's offensive to us Americans who don't understand military time. As an American who is capable of subtracting 12 from a number, all I could do was lay my head in my palms and wish I could smack them across the face. Not a tour guide, but I went on a trip to Amsterdam/Germany with my college once. A group of about 5 girls got so drunk that they slept through the entire bus tour of Berlin. I got drunk the night before too, but seriously? Don't get so drunk that you miss the entire reason you spent all that money to come here. Save your money and get shitty drunk at home. In the hills of North Carolina, where Floridians flock in the summer to escape the summer heat, elderly Floridian gets out of his Cadillac and scans the surrounding hills as the mechanic pumps gas for him. You must have a lot of inbred types in these hills. Mechanic shifts his jaw from one cheek to the other. Yup, looks the Floridian over. But they mostly go back home in the fall. Spitz. Not exactly a tour guide, but I worked at a museum one summer. I was giving a speech on the sharks near the shark tank. At the end of it, people normally come up and ask questions. One woman pushed me aside and whispers, "Is it true that men get periods on full moons?" I told her no, but to this day I wonder if that's just me. I used to work for a ski resort in CO for a summer. Texans were notorious for silly questions. A lady asked me, in total seriousness, "How did you get that there's some men up on that there mountain?" I looked where they were pointing while asking the question. Residual snow on the mountaintop. They actually thought we covered a mountain peak in concrete. It was a facepalm moment for the woman asking. I went on a cruise to Alaska one summer. One of the other passengers, a girl in her early 20s, packed only bikinis, short shorts, and tank tops. One of the landing party tour guides asked her why she didn't pack more warmly. She said it was because the Weather Channel always shows Hawaii and Alaska right next to each other. I gave up on the human race right then. As with most everyone else, I'm not a tour guide, just knowledgeable about the area I live in and used to come into contact with a lot of tourists in and around Yellowstone. Just posted this last night, but it's worth repeating. At what elevation do deer turn into elk? And the ever-glorious. It's like 80 degrees down here. What's that white stuff up on top of the mountain? Do people paint the mountain to look like there's snow? And the countless tards that walk up to wild animals in the park, thinking it's a big zoo. I was a tour guide on the Missouri in Pearl Harbor, and people would ask me things like, "Why are there so many Japs on board?" Or, "Why is the deck made out of wood if we showed them Japs that we could defeat them with firebombs?" I'm Japanese as well, and I would either immediately call them out and tell them that they couldn't use that language on board the ship, or give them a phenomenal tour and talk to them afterwards about whether or not they enjoyed my tour. Most of the time they did, and I would just say as nicely as possible, "Well, I'm Japanese myself, and this ship is a part of my history too." Also, one time a lady brought a beach towel and laid it on the deck and just sunbathed. Also, male tourists would request for a male tour guide because they figured the girls didn't know anything. I was at the Vatican with a friend. He is Jewish and had never been in a Catholic church before. He saw a priest and parishioner enter a confessional. He yelled out loudly across the vast interior of the cathedral, "Hey guys, this is just like the movies." He then began taking pictures through the screens on the confessional. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.